Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get started because we have a whole bunch of information. Uh, we have a jam-packed webinar today. Welcome to the Procurement Masterclass. So this is the first out of 4 sessions that we have, and this is the guide to working with Caltrans. So this session 1 is Introduction to the Caltrans Procurement Program. So why are we working with Caltrans? Well, because Caltrans manages more than 50,000 miles of California's highways and freeways, and providing inner city rail services, permits more than 400 public use airports and special use hospital heliports, among others. So they are very, very important agency, um, with lots of different procurement opportunities. So that's why we're partnering up with them. So just a little bit of introduction about PACE. Just there you go. Actually, a couple of housekeeping items. So make sure you are in listening mode. And then please use the raise hand function if you would like to ask questions. However, since we'll have a few minutes at the end to post questions, if you can just wait, we'll make sure that we take your questions at the end. So there are 2 ways. You can put yours in the chat, but we may get missed or along in the shuffle. So make sure you can put it on the Q&A as well. So and we'll have the session towards the end, and then we'll also have the webinar recordings available. So please visit our e-library and make sure to complete our survey when the webinar ends. Okay, and just a little bit of information about PACE. So PACE is Pacific Asian Consortium in Employment. And what we do is we are a nonprofit that's been around since the 70s. But the Business Development Center, where we help entrepreneurs, has been around since the mid-90s. And this is where we do technical one-on-one consulting, entrepreneur training programs, business courses, small business financing, and also employee hiring and workforce development targeted towards entrepreneurs like you all over Southern California. And I'm specifically part of the MBDA Center, which is the Minority Business Development Agency, which is part of the U.S. Department of Commerce. So what we do is we provide access to capital, which is connecting you to public lenders, banks, and investors, providing access to contracts, so assisting with contract procurement opportunities. So that's why we're having this session right now with Caltrans. And then last one is providing access to markets. So this is positioning to expand the client base and operations to global markets. And my name is Christina Espiritu, and I am one of the procurement specialists here at PACE. Okay. And so what are our learning objectives for first session? First, it's learning more about the minor and emergency programs within Caltrans. Providing an overview of the Caltrans procurement process and also identifying procurement opportunities and future projects within Caltrans. So with that said, I would like to hand over the slides and the presentation over to Lori and her team, and we can get started.
Thank you, Christina. Let me just make sure I'm in presentation mode. Can you guys see my screen yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go. All right. My name is Lori Karagosian, and I am your District 12 Small Business Liaison. The Caltrans Small Business Program exists to make it easier for firms to do business with Caltrans. The email address you see on the screen is the best way to connect with the Small Business Program and myself. If you have questions or need assistance, we are always here and happy to help. And I will drop that in the chat a little later so that you all have access to that. Before we begin, I'd like to take a quick moment to review the Caltrans Non-Discrimination Policy Statement. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination based upon race, color, and national origin. Specifically, 42 U.S.C. 2000D states that no person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Now I'd like to pass the presentation over to my colleague Syed to introduce himself and tell us about the Caltrans minor program.
Hi everyone, my name is Saeed Meranfard. I'm the minor program project manager in District 12. I'm happy to present a little bit overview about what minor program is and the opportunities minor program offers to small business in the state and Orange County. So Caltrans minor program, we're going to go over an overview of what minor program is and also what minor program project types do we have, which we have two types, and also where we can find minor projects to bid on if a small business contractor is interested. Minor program is a yearly funding program, and it is part of SHOP, the State Highway Operation and Protection Program. And it's reserved for relatively low-cost projects. Minor programs renew every fiscal year with a new budget. So whatever budget it has, we try to deliver as many projects as we can with it, addressing the district's needs. And then the program zeroes out and starts a new one at the beginning of fiscal year. So the purpose of the minor program is to address low-cost transportation needs that are district's priorities, whether it is operation, it is safety, it is maintenance. Minor program can come up based on the needs and come up with a contract with engineering plans, specifications, and estimate that can be bid on by small business contractors. The funding eligibility for a minor project is defined as a capital improvement project. So as I mentioned, minor program is part of SHOP, and SHOP is about capital improvement project, and that is relative to safety, operations, facilities, and rehabilitation of the state highways and bridges. One of the characteristics of SHOP and minor program is that it should not add capacity via adding a new traffic lane to the system. That would be a different program. So if we go over the project types, minor B, we have type minor B projects. These are projects that are $461,000 or less. And this $461,000 is not just the work bid items that contractors bid on. This also includes 5% contingency, about 5% supplemental items, which are basically additional funds for traffic and water pollution control and such. And also about 10% state furnished items, which those can be COZIP from CHP, public information, and any resident engineer office cost. So this $461,000 needs to include all this, which about 20% of it is not actually the work bid items for the contractors. And also Caltrans prioritizes awarding minor B projects to certified small business contractors. And minor Bs, as of a few years ago, based on the state law, has only advertised and awarded for a small business. To bid on a minor B project, a small business contractor needs to be certified by the state as a small business, and then it can participate in the bidding process. As I understand, there is a training coming up next week at Tuesday on March 11th for how to get a small business certified with the state. And these dollar amounts of $461,000 for minor Bs, these are determined by the California Transportation Commission. We call them CTC. And they visit this every other year. And these numbers can be increased or decreased based on the market inflation and effect of it on the contracts. On the next slide, we talk about a larger minor projects, which we call minor A projects. Minor A projects costs have been determined by the CTC to be between $461,001 up to $1,250,000. So a maximum minor A project is $1.25 million. Again, this $1.25 million includes not just only the work bid items of the contract, it also includes 5% contingency, 5%, about 5% supplemental items, and about 10% state furnished items. Minor A projects can receive bids from small business, but also can receive bids from non-small business per state. And when evaluating bids on the minor A projects, Caltrans might give preference to small businesses, potentially allowing them to win the contract even if their bid is not the absolute lowest. Right now, the advantage preference that's given to the small business by state law is about 5%. That is determined by the CTC, and it can change when they visit these regulations every year. So on the next slide, we go over a 4-year overview of the projects we have had in the past 4 years. For minor B projects from fiscal year 2020 to fiscal year 24, we have had 10 projects on fiscal year 2020 to 21, 10 minor Bs worth 2.9 million. For 21-22, we have had 16 minor Bs that were awarded, totaling 3.6 million. Fiscal year 22-23, we had 15 minor Bs totaling 3.8 million. And fiscal year 23-24, we had 12 minor Bs that were awarded to small business contractors for 3.4 million total. So the last 4 years, we have had about $14 million worth of minor Bs only. And on the minor A side, from fiscal year 2020 to 2024, we have had 2 minor A's on fiscal year 2021 and 1 minor A fiscal year 21-22 and 2 minor A's on fiscal year 22-23 and 2 minor A's fiscal year 23-24. So total 7 minor A's in the past 4 years, totaling about $7.6 million. These are all opportunities small business contractors can have to bid on these projects. Now, talking about projects that we have at hand and opportunities that are at hand and small business contractors can place their bids on. For fiscal year 24-25, these are the list of projects that we are either advertised or we are going to advertise. On the top of the list, we have 2 minor A's. One is on Route 5, which is mostly intersection signal modification, and one on Route 73, which is mostly safety device upgrade. These 2 are minor A's, and they will be advertised in the next month or 2. We also have 13 minor B's. That from these 13 minor B's, 3 at the bottom of the list have been already advertised and awarded. But there are 10 more opportunities to bid on minor Bs and get awarded for those minor Bs. A few of them might be already on the website. So to see where you can see these minor B contracts to bid on, if you go on the next slide, state advertises their minor B projects on state website Cal e-Procure. So to find it, you can just go on Google and type in Cal e-Procure, and from there you can search and find minor B projects. Minor projects can be advertised anytime throughout the year, so you might want to keep an eye on that. To easily find the minor B projects that are, for example, for a district, right, District 12, when you go to the search, you click on the search button on Cal e-Procure, just enter on the event name box, put 12A, and that way you will see all the minor B contracts that are advertised at that time that you have opportunity to bid on. So if you have any questions in this regard and need more information, please contact the small business email that Lori has provided for you, and we'll be happy to provide the information. Thank you so much.
Now I'd like to invite Charles Gray to talk a bit more about the contracting side of minor B.
Thank you, Lori. Hi, I'm Charles Gray. I'm a Deputy Division Chief at Caltrans for the Division of Procurement and Contracts. One of my office does procure all the minor Bs for the state, and I've been doing this for probably 14 years over the minor B program at DPEC. So I'm just going to talk a little bit more about what a minor B is. It's a contract is defined as for the erection, construction, alteration, addition, repair, or improvement of any state structure, building, road, or other state improvement of any kind. the estimated cost of which will not exceed the minor B established limit by the Department of Finance, which is currently, as mentioned by Saeed, currently at $461,000, and it does get updated every other year. And that the dollar amount of the contract is a deciding factor when determining whether the contract estimate falls into the minor B, minor A, or major construction parameters. The minor B designation is unique to the California Department of Transportation. When you're searching for that in Cali Procure, if you want to expand beyond just District 12, you can type in minor B in that search as well, and it will give you all the minor Bs for the entire state. So that's another way to look if you're looking, perhaps want to see if there's anything outside of District 12 that you could also potentially work on. These contracts provide a method to accomplish work that is designed and to be reviewed quickly within a few working days. It's going to be a small area on the highway, usually require relatively minimal expenditure of funds and personnel, and can be managed simultaneously with the major construction projects. They often do run side by side with some of the major projects that are going on. The minor contracts are awarded through the competitive bidding process, and the bids cannot exceed the amount that is determined by the Department of Finance, the $461,000. So if your bid is going to be over that amount, there's no reason to even bid. It will automatically be rejected because we cannot accept bids over that amount. That was it, right?
Okay, I think we have Kaylee here today. Kaylee, are you presenting or is Jason?
I'll be presenting.
Okay. Did you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Kaylee Mills. I am one of our major damage coordinators here in District 12 Maintenance Engineering. Next slide. Okay, so in the major damage office, we work particularly on emergency projects. Caltrans uses emergency contracts when services or goods are needed to immediately respond to a sudden, unexpected occurrence that poses a clear and imminent danger, requiring immediate action to prevent or mitigate the loss or impairment of life, health, property, or essential public services as provided by Public Contract Code Section 1102. There are two different types of emergency contracts. They are emergency force account and emergency limited bid. Emergency force account contracts are used to obtain labor, materials, and equipment at direct cost, plus prescribed markup, which is 21%, for emergencies requiring immediate action because of road closure or danger to public safety. An example of an EFA or emergency force account contract is the repair of a highway section that washed away by a mudslide. Emergency force accounts do not require bids. Emergency limited bid contracts are a modified type of force account contract that includes a competitive bidding element. ELB method of contracting generally is used for permanent restoration, but can be used for emergency opening work as well. These contracts are used for emergency work that is urgent but stable. They require bids from at least 3 different contractors, and they also compete on the markup for the prime contractors, labor, equipment, rental, and materials. An example of like an ELB contract would be a leaky roof for one of our maintenance buildings. In District 12, we, over the past couple of years, have had emergency contracts that have repaired sinkholes, slope failures, damaged sound walls, concrete barrier hits, fiber optic cable vandalism, pump plants, culverts, cable netting. Those are typically the types of contracts that we work on. And while these contracts are an expedited type of contract, we also still require typical environmental clearancing, environmental permits. We have to follow the labor compliance standards. So once it gets to construction, it really behaves as a standard contract. Next slide, please. Okay. So Caltrans districts obtain the required approvals for the emergency work, and then once they're approved, we select contractors to perform the emergency work under an EFA and ELB. The contractor selection is based on several factors, such as property licensing and registration, ability, proximity to the damage, willingness to mobilize quickly, or in an ELB situation by the lowest bid. Caltrans maintains a list of potential contractors available for emergency work. It's called the Caltrans Contractor Registry, which can be found at ecr.dot.ca.gov. A lot of the requirements, I have a website down below where you can find the requirements for contractors on emergency projects. It's pretty standard requirements, like following the prevailing wages, holding your license by the California Contractor State Licensing Board, being registered with the Department of Industrial Relations. However, important things to note is that the prime contractor in an emergency contract must perform no less than 50% of the total contract cost. And then one of our bigger requirements that needs to be met is insurance requirements. And those insurance requirements can be seen here in this table, which is based on a sliding scale depending on how large the contract is. And that's basically it.
Okay, and I'd like to invite Charles Gray back to close us out on the emergency projects.
Absolutely. So I think we've kind of gone over this. Kaylee already kind of discussed the differences here with the between emergency force account and emergency limited bid. Again, just the force account contracts are when something has to be done right away. We don't have the time to wait for contractors to submit their bids. And you might be wondering what exactly you're bidding on for an emergency work, and that's basically just your markups.
Charles is muted, I think. Yes. Can't hear him.
You can't hear me? Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm not sure why. So yeah, they're basically bidding on the markups for that. So you know what profit margins that you're willing to accept in order to potentially get that contract. That would be for the limited bids. Yeah, we've pretty much covered all the rest of the stuff on here. Is there a next slide for me? Yeah. So yeah, these types of contracts are typically initiated with a director's order or a district director's order, depending on the dollar value. Again, that $461,000 amount currently is what determines that. It won't really affect any of the contractors on that. That's more of an internal thing that directs us as to how to process them. Though these types of contracts can be executed quickly, there are very particular requirements that are very important to keep in mind. Number one is insurance. Kaylee mentioned that already. This is probably one of our number one things that we have run up against in the past is being asked to do and agreeing to do a emergency force account contract, and then later after you've done the work finding out you didn't have those minimum amounts of insurance. And when that happens, you're going to be required to file a claim in order to get paid. So and that's a long, tedious process that we really don't want to go through. So, make sure that if you are interested in these, that you do have the necessary insurance before you start the work. Same goes with the bonding. Bonds are required on that. And when you're set up for that, the contract manager will go over what that bond amount is and make sure that you have that bond again before you start work, because that's another way that could end up getting you in the not getting paid quickly pays. Make sure you have the proper and valid licensing. Again, Kaylee mentioned that, the CSLB, we check that to make sure that at the time of the start of the contract, you do have the proper and valid license and that you follow the prevailing wage requirements throughout the contract. And those would all be listed in the contract. Next one.
Thank you, Charles. Now I'd like to invite our next set of speakers to do an overview of the Caltrans procurement process. Wendy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you. My name is Wendy Hall. I'm the Deputy Division Chief for A&E program with Caltrans Division of Procurement and Contracts. Quickly go over the A&E contract. So architecture and engineer or A&E contract are used for professional services requiring a particular license, registration, or certification. Our A&E program can cover multiple types of services, this including architecture, landscape architecture, engineering, land surveying, right-of-way engineering, construction engineering, construction management, and also project management services. A&E contracts are necessary due to the workload or insufficient workforce with Caltrans. So we contract out some of the contract to consultant to provide A&E services. So for our contract type, we have on-call services, which is based on the need of the ongoing project. And we also have a project specific. This is mainly for some major or large project in the district. For multi-phase, it's still under development, so we do not have this vehicle at this time. The difference between A&E contract versus other contract is A&E contract is qualification basis. We have a selection process. You can see here, starting with request for qualification or RFQ advertisement. Consultant going to submit their statement of qualification or SOQ. We're going to have a panel member to do the initial evaluation based on the SOQ submitted by the consultants and the shortlist to the next step, which is the final evaluation interviews. So after interviews, we're going to choose the most qualified consultant, invite them to go to the initial negotiation process. The independent office of audit investigation is going to review the financial document submitted by a consultant. My office is going to enforce those comments and review the cost proposal. If everything is agreed, we're going to go to the next process, which is contract execution. Okay. For A&E contract, although we do not have a specific small business goal, we do have a DBE or DVB goal that many small business may want to look into and see if there a channel for you to get DBE or DVB certified. For DBE goal is mainly for the contract using federal fund. DBE, it is disadvantaged business enterprise. The current DBE goal percentage is 22%, which is in every A&E contract using federal money. For 100% state-funded A&E contract, the participation is for DBE firm have minimum 5%. So again, those the opportunity for many small business, you might be able to certify as either DBE or DVB firm. That's all I have for A&E contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Dolly?
Good afternoon. My name is Dolly Kempfrat, and I am the Office Chief for Non-IT Administrative and Facility Contracts with Caltrans' Division of Procurement and Contracts. Today, I'm going to cover the different statewide non-IT service contract types processed and the solicitation methods that we use to procure those services. So the first type of, well, there's two main types of contracts that we use for non-IT service agreements. This first type is called personal or commercial services. We consider these the catch-all for procuring services. Commercial service agreements typically do not require a contractor license, certificate, or permit to provide the services, but they may or may not be subject to prevailing wages. The common types of personal or commercial service contracts that we advertise are for trash collection, janitorial services, gardening, security system monitoring, unarmed security guard services, hazardous materials abatement, and pest control services. Next slide, please. The second type is what we call public works, and you've heard this definition previously when we were discussing minor B contracts. These agreements are for the erection, construction, alteration, repair, or improvement of any public structure, building, road, or other public improvement of any kind. The public works agreements that we process require a contractor license, certificate, or permit, and are subject to prevailing wages when the value of the contract is $15,000 or more. So typically, these types of contracts that we procure for what we consider public works are typically for maintenance and repair. So the most common types are plumbing repair, electrical repair, fencing installation, roofing repair, painting, HVAC systems repairs, and hazardous materials abatement. Next slide, please. So one of the solicitation methods that we use is what we call an invitation for bid, which is the formal competitive solicitation method. The IFB process may be used when the pool of certified small businesses is too small to support what we call an invitation for price quote, or when we're trying to meet DBE or DBBE goals. IFBs are advertised on the Cali Procure website for a minimum of 10 business days and are available to all bidders who meet the minimum qualifications posted in the solicitation package. Cali Procure is the platform that keeps the department in compliance with statutory requirements. Bids are opened publicly for anyone who wants to participate. And at the time of bid opening, each bid's total and any small business information is read aloud. Bids are considered preliminary pending review and verification of applicable bid requirements and awarded to the lowest responsible bidder. Next page, please. All right, the invitation for price quote, or what we call IFPQ. It's a simplified bidding method that's also referred to as the two-quote process, which allows state agencies to contract strictly with certified small businesses, which also includes other small business designations such as micro businesses, small businesses for public works, and for DVBEs. So the invitation for price quote is another solicitation method used and available to Department of General Services certified small businesses only. Currently, Caltrans has a mandate that requires 25% of our contract dollars to be awarded to certified small businesses. Using this option allows us to award to these small businesses when the contract value is greater than $5,000 and less than $250,000 for commercial services contracts, or capped at $461 for public work services. Keeping in mind that using this process is only successful when we receive at least 2 responsive quotes. IFPQs are also advertised on the Cali Procure website, and each quote is checked for required information and awarded to the lowest responsive bidder. Next slide, please. So this chart illustrates the differences between the two types of solicitation methods. IFBs typically have socioeconomic goals that can be fulfilled by contractors certified as DBEs or DVBEs. IFPQs do not have participation goals. Keep in mind that IFBEs do have an incentive program for small businesses where they may be able to take advantage of that program and have their bids have the price. we'll be able to apply a small business incentive where small businesses will be able to win bids depending on the incentive being applied. IFBQs have limits for both commercial services and public works contracts. IFBs only have a value limit of $461,000 for public works contracts. At least 2 responsive quotes must be received for the IFBQ solicitation method to be successful. There is no requirement for an IFB. Subcontractors can be used with IFBs to meet participation goals, and subcontractors using an IFPQ must also be DGS certified small businesses.
Thank you, Dolly. Now I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about where you can find information on our procurements and future projects. I'll be going over the new Caltrans Contracting Opportunities Portal, Contractors Corner, our A&E Look Ahead report, and Cali Procure, which was mentioned a few times in the presentation earlier. Let's start with projects. There are a number of different ways you can access information about future projects. The first resource is this new Caltrans Contracting Opportunities Portal, which was launched recently, which makes it easier to find all opportunities in one place. From this page, you can search all projects to see all Caltrans projects statewide, or you can select a particular district and isolate results to just see all the currently advertised projects for that specific district. The portal also allows you to search and filter the list of projects you are viewing by different parameters like county. You could use keywords and different descriptions, and there are other parameters like that. It just makes it easier to find projects that match the line of work that you do. You can also search by area by clicking on sections of the map located on the front page of that portal. And you can also search by your license number, and it will show you all the projects for which the majority of the work aligns to that license number. If you're going to bookmark any page to visit regularly, this is one of the ones that I would highly recommend. Because if you scroll down to the bottom of this page, when you visit it, you can also find direct links to 5 other websites that are very useful. And those include the Cali Procure, the Contractors Corner, advertisements, solicitations, and our 24-month look ahead. It is a one-stop shop. That's what I like to call it. The second place, and one that most people are already familiar with, is Contractors Corner, where there is an abundance of helpful information on how to work with Caltrans. When you go to Contractors Corner, the first thing you want to do is scroll down towards the bottom of the page to get to where the bulk of the information is. And if you're a first-time bidder, you would want to click on the first-time bidders link. That's where you're going to find useful information about electronic bidding and all the bidding forms. The arrows on this slide indicate where you can go to register for the emergency work registry that was mentioned earlier, and to view minor B contracts and projects that were talked about earlier, and all the A&E contract information. Contractors Corner has various tabs, including general information, advertisement, bidding, awards, and cost data. To find additional opportunities, you can navigate to the advertisements tab, and as the slide on the screen indicates, here you can find advertised projects, the 24-month project look ahead, current fiscal year advertisements by quarter, and current and past advertised projects. Another place you can visit to find information about our A&E projects is the A&E page, where you can access our look ahead report, and there's an arrow pointing to where that's located. And last but not least, Cali Procure. We talked about it a few times today. This is basically the state of California's one-stop procurement portal, where you can search for bid opportunities, find public procurement information, and apply to get your small business or DVBE certifications and locate other resources. I'll be dropping some links in the chat for you, but now I'm going to stop sharing and pass the presentation back to Christina.
There you go. Thank you so much. I'm just going to go and quickly share this. There you go. Yeah, so at this point, thank you so much for the valuable information. I'm just going to go through some of the questions that have been answered and some that are not. So let me start with, let me just see, there is a question on the chat. Let me see. First, let me start with the one about minor A. Actually, let me start with this one. Does the emergency project require the use of union workers?
I believe Said had to leave the meeting early.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, so then
we have
we
his
can
email.
say,
I'll drop in the chat so we could ask him.
okay,
Right,
then we can table
right.
that question. Yes. Okay. And then there's a question, how do you pay the contractors once the work is completed? Or is that a question
Okay.
for Said as well?
Yeah, so on the emergency question, that's not my department, but I'm not sure about the union workers about emergency contracts. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Regarding how the contractor gets paid, if the question is about partial payment, if the minor B is large enough, yes, partial payments are can be done as a portion of work is completed. But on a very small minor Bs, then the entire work needs to be completed, and then the contractor will get paid.
Got it. Okay. And then does Caltrans post available bids for the January 2025 SoCal fires or any of the wildfires?
So the wildfires were in a different district, so I'm not quite sure the specifics as to what happened there. If the work qualified for an emergency project, that was likely done as an emergency force account, so they selected a contractor. If there is work that can wait and did not need to be done immediately, then that was likely posted on Cal eProcure for bids.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. And is there an advantage to be an MBE certified when bidding?
I'll answer that one. Caltrans does not really differentiate between small business and micro businesses. So there would be no advantage or disadvantage to being a micro business. The only certification would be the Small Business Public Works, which does allow you to get into slightly larger dollar value contracts if you have that certification in some cases.
Okay, thank you. And this may be a question, I'm not sure if it's within the scope, but I will post it out anyway. If I want a truck stop in an area, who in Caltrans will authorize the exit, ingress, and ingress? Or is that for a different department?
I'm guessing that would be a traffic operations questions, and I think the email can be sent to the public PIO office of Caltrans, and they will redirect the email and the justification for it to the appropriate office. Then they will investigate and respond back.
Got it. Okay. Then another question, are there any opportunities for marketing or creative video services through Caltrans?
There might be, and if they were, they would be advertised on Cali Procure. And if not, you can send over your capability statement to me through the D12 small business email address, and I can keep that on file if we ever need to collect estimates or quotes.
Oh, great. That'd be great. Thank you. Thanks, Lori. Another question. Do minor A and minor B projects include or prioritize consultants on the design side also?
I can answer that one. At this time, no. The answer is we're not using consultants at this time, at least. But if later on the budget increases and we are short-staffed, it's possible, but not at this time.
Got it. Okay. And then this was answered in the chat, but I wanted to just bring it up to everyone. Is a 461,000 minor B contract, does it equal the total amount of the contract, or is it the maximum amount slated for small businesses?
461,000, as I mentioned, includes not only the bid items which the contractor bids on, but it also includes about total of 5% contingency, 20% total of other overhead costs, which includes 5% contingency, 5% supplemental, and about 10% state furnished. So the bid to be acceptable, it needs to allow enough dollar amount for these funds to be part of the contract. So the bid should be around maybe 350 to 380, so we can add the rest to it for the supplemental, state furnish, and contingency, because all together has to be 46,100 and below.
Got it. Okay.
Can
Thank
I
you.
amend that just a little bit? So we will accept bids up to 461,000. It would be up to the district to get proper permissions to add their supplemental and contingencies above that amount. But we can accept them up to 461,000, but not one penny over.
Great, thank you. And then Lori, this is a similar question earlier. Are there any contracts for health and wellness products? And drone services. So I think it's just looking at the different services that Caltrans are in need of.
Yeah, I would still search for those in Cali Procure. I'm not aware of any special contracts that we've posted for those. There might be smaller purchases that we do. But again, you can send me your capability statement, and if I'm ever contacted by any buyers looking for something, I can share your information with them.
Okay, thank you, Lori. And the question is, the California Supplier Clearinghouse certification for women and minorities an acceptable certification?
No, Caltrans only recognizes the small business certifications, the DVBE and the DBE.
Okay. Okay, and let me just make sure I don't miss any other questions. Let me see. Okay, our company does not provide the service. We manufacture glass vials. How can we find out about Caltrans' need for a specific product like ours?
Again, in Cali Procure, there's a lot of information. If you put in the keywords and codes that correspond to your business, you can search for contracts that have matched that. And even if it's not Caltrans, it might be another state agency. I'm not sure how Caltrans would use glass files. But if you have that knowledge or have an idea on how Caltrans can use those files, we do have an innovation portal that I can provide you the link for. Again, just connect with me through the email and we can chat about that further.
Thank you. Yeah, so it seems like a lot of the other questions are specific opportunities for either a product or a service. So as Lori had mentioned, you can go to Cali Procure. And then also an alternative would be to send her capability statements. However, I don't want to inundate with you with capability statements. So would you just suggest going through Cali Procure first for opportunities?
That is the best place to look. And also there's I can help them navigate to spots in Cali Procure where they can see what similar businesses have received contracts and figure out which agencies are using their products and services, if not Caltrans. And DGS also has they do half-hour consults as well if you would like help with improving your Cali Procure profile. So we could talk about that. I do one-on-one meetings with businesses, and I'm happy to look at the capability statements and share whatever information I can with everyone.
Yeah, and then also to plug in PACE's services. So what we do is we also do technical one-on-one consulting. So if you do have any questions with the capability statements, feel free to reach out to me. And so I will do a review of your capability statement before it goes to Lori, right? We want to make sure it's the best that it can be before it goes to the team. So let me just say, okay, more questions about that. So as Lori had mentioned, go to Cal eProcure, and then if you can put the email down or the resource for the innovation that you had spoken about for the glass vial. Okay, and she's gonna put that on the chat. But I think we have all our questions answered. So I'm looking through it. So with that said, I just wanted to make sure that you have my contact information. Again, my name is Christine Espiritu, and I am one of the procurement specialists here at PACE. So as I mentioned, what we do is we can help you through the procurement process. So whether it's looking through some bids, so you had a lot of questions about how to navigate Cal eProcure. So that's something that we can help you with. And then also the capability statement. So making sure that it's formatted correctly, and also the information that Lori will need to actually, scope out your products and services are accurately there. So feel free to put your, to scan the QR code so you can reach out to me. So I'll just give you a few more seconds. Okay. And then just wanted to plug in the rest of our upcoming webinars. So this is, as I mentioned, the first one of 4. So the next one will be obtaining certifications. So I know you had a lot of questions about the certifications. And then 3 will be working on bid proposals. And then the 4th one would be access to capital. And I know that in our presentation, we had spoken about surety and then bonding and insurance. So that will be included in session 4. So with that said, I'm just going to look at more questions and see if there's any last minute questions on the chat before we close. Oh, okay, good question. So is this for California businesses only?
So to bid on a project or a contract, you have to be registered with the Secretary of State to do business in California. You don't have to be, I guess, necessarily located in the state, but there is a process for out-of-state companies to register with Secretary of State, but you must be registered in order to do business with the state of California.
Great. So with that said, as I mentioned earlier, there will be a follow-up email to this one with a recording link, as well as the slides, and then also the information for our panelists and their email addresses. So with that said, we hope to see you in session 2 and the rest of the sessions. And thank you, and have a good rest of your day.